Okay, well, hello everyone. I think I'm just gonna get started with my little introductory spiel, even though we only have a few people in the audience now. I hope that people trickle in and we'll have this time for that. Hello, this is Isabel from Wisconsin Land and Water, and thank you for joining us today. I am, as you just heard, recording this webinar, and it's going to be posted on the Wisconsin Land and Water website at some point in the near future. I'm hoping by the end of the week, but I will also send a link out with the recording and any other materials when it becomes available, as well as a link to an evaluation. So it'd be great if you all could fill that out. Our presentation today will be on the Agricultural Wetland Mitigation Banking Program, and our presenter is Nathan Dewey with the DNR. We're going to be taking questions throughout the chat box, and I'll be able to ask them to Nathan at the end. And if we have time for Q&A at the end, we'll also potentially have time to unmute given time constraints. But feel free to use that chat line if you want to pop in any questions before you forget them or anything like that. I think that is just about it. So without any further ado, Nathan, please take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Isabel, and thanks everyone for taking your time out of your mornings to get on this call and listen about this new program that we're creating with the NRCS here in Wisconsin. So like she said, I'm Nathan Dewey. I work for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources as an ag wetland mitigation specialist, and I've been developing this program. We've been calling ourselves the Wisconsin Agricultural Mitigation Bank, for about a year now. And we're pretty close to having this program being fully operational. So now we're reaching out to a bunch of different conservation groups and really getting the word out there that this program's coming. So before I begin, I just want to pose a question to the group, and feel free to just put your answers in the chat. I'm just curious to know, how often in your daily workload are you working with farmers on wetland related matters, whether that could be a compliance issue, a conservation issue, whatever, timeline that is. So, are you seeing that maybe once a week you're working with the farmer, once a month, never? If you're not, that's important too. Okay, seeing some not oftens. Okay, so it's looking like not too often, but that's okay. My goal for you guys, through this presentation is to have a good understanding of this new program that we're going to be offering in Wisconsin. And, if you ever do have any wetland, related matters that come up, you'll have this information in your back pocket, and hopefully, it could be a helpful tool for you in navigating, through those issues. Just a moment here. There we go. So what is the Wisconsin Agricultural Mitigation Bank? What it's going to be is a tool that farmers can utilize to essentially do the agricultural activities that they would like to do on their landscape that may impact wetlands, while also staying in compliance with the NRCS and those swampbuster provisions of the Food Security Act. So if you're familiar with how private mitigation banking currently works in Wisconsin, or in lieu fee mitigation banking, this is a third mitigation banking program that's going to come to Wisconsin that's going to be operating separately from those, that's specifically tailored to farmers and any wetland impacts that they may have. And the way this will work is they can A farmer, if they have a wetland impact, they can purchase credits from an established mitigation bank and offset those wetland impacts from that are protected by the Food Security Act, and still be able to do that and be in compliance with the NRCS. So historically, if a farmer's participating in these federal farm programs, they have to comply with the Food Security Act. And if they were to impact a wetland, they really only had two options to stay in compliance, and that would be either, avoid that impact altogether or do mitigation on their own, which can be really cost prohibitive, and they might not even have land to do so anyways. So this program will offer them a third option where, they can cut a check and stay in compliance, still do those agricultural activities, and everything will still be up to snuff. So here's a flow chart of how we expect this entire process to work. So starting out, the DNR is going to partner with some entity, could be a municipality, it could be a private landowner, to implement a wetland restoration project. Typically, we look for drained farm fields that have hydric soils. Maybe they were historic wetlands in the past. Those just make really good wetland restoration sites and have a high chance of being successful. That restoration is going to generate a certain amount of credits with a formula that we've determined with the NRCS beforehand. Typically, it's about, you get 1 acre of credits or 1 credit for each acre of wetland restoration that you do. So once those credits have been generated from that restoration, they'll be held by a credit holder, which is going to be a non-DNR entity with some sort of stake in the project. Maybe they're the landowner, maybe they are responsible for long-term management, something like that, that has, their involvement with the project. That credit holder will make credits available to farmers for purchase. So a farmer will work with the NRCS to determine their credit need for whatever wetland impact they may have. Once they have that, they'll come to the DNR, submit a request for credit withdrawal, and they'll just provide us their credit need from the NRCS, a quick outline of what their plan is going to be, and we'll review that and accept their application for purchasing credits and send them over to the appropriate credit holder to purchase those credits from. And then at that point, it's as simple as just cutting a check for those credits. They'll be given an affidavit of sale that they can give to the NRCS that will properly document that they purchased the credits that they needed to mitigate for their impact. And then the NRCS will say, great, you're good to go. You can go do your tile project, or what have you, that might be impacting a wetland. So, this is a federal program. Where does the DNR fit into this? We're partnering with the NRCS and administering this program on their behalf through a federal grant. Our main goal throughout this project throughout this program is to provide producers with another option for them to comply with the swampbuster provisions of the Food Security Act. Most Midwestern states now have these established wetland mitigation banking programs, and we're hoping for this new program now to be fully developed in Wisconsin, and provide that option to Wisconsin farmers as well. And of course, this is a really good opportunity for us to build relationships with different programs across the state. Obviously, with the NRCS, we're working very closely with them. You guys, it's great, reaching out and talking with you guys, getting the word out. We've been partnering with 2 county municipalities to implement our initial mitigation sites. So that is Milwaukee County Parks and Dane County Land and Water Resources Department. And then, of course, this is a really good opportunity for the DNR to build that relationship with the farming community. I think at times in the past, we can be at odds with each other as being, a regulatory agency over them sometimes. So this is a really unique opportunity for us to come to them and hopefully be the solution to, provide a solution for some of those issues that they might be facing on their landscape. And then I think the DNR is really well equipped to administer a program like this. We've been administering the in lieu fee wetland mitigation program for about a decade now. We've got a lot of successful sites on the landscape, so we can use our program expertise to implement, really quality wetland restoration projects from this program. So I want to get into a little more specifics about how this program is going to function. It is a little restrictive in what types of wetland impacts can be properly mitigated for under this program. The key thing is that it has to be a wetland impact from an agricultural activity that could increase the production of an agricultural commodity on the landscape. So this isn't for putting up a barn or putting through a road. Any commercial or residential wetland impacts can't be mitigated for under this program. It's solely for, those things that are going to increase the production of an agricultural commodity on the landscape. And the four main categories that we're looking for is drain tile projects, any ditching, any tree clearing, stump grubbing, stuff like that, or just, regular wetland fill. Those are really the four main that will be eligible to be mitigated for under this program. Another really important thing about this program is it's only available to mitigate for wetland protections as expressed by the Food Security Act. So there's three main laws in Wisconsin that protect wetlands. We have the Clean Water Act, we have our own 28136 Wisconsin statute, and then we have the Food Security Act. And there are some overlap between these three statutes. So farmers will need to be careful when purchasing credits from this bank that they don't also require mitigation under 28136 or the Clean Water Act, because they don't translate between the statutes. So if they're purchasing credits for this program, they're okay in the Food Security Act eyes, but these credits don't necessarily satisfy the statutory requirements of the Clean Water Act or 28136. So that's why we'll need to be careful and make sure that, these credits are only being used to mitigate for those Food Security Act wetland protections. And what I would encourage you guys to do, if you're talking with farmers about this program, encourage them to work with the DNR early on, and we'll help them out with that process. Make sure that, there's not going to be that mitigation requirement before they purchase credits from this program. So another cool thing about this program is it can be used for what we've been calling proactive and retroactive wetland impacts. So those proactive would be the typical scenario where, let's say a farmer has a drain tile project they want to implement and they haven't done it yet. They'll work with us and work with the NRCS to get those credits purchased beforehand and mitigate for that impact before it occurs, so that then they can go ahead and do it and they know that they're fully in compliance and there won't be any issues. Those retroactive impacts would be, let's say a farmer put in some tile, didn't check with anyone, and then the NRCS catches them and finds them out of compliance. They can utilize this program and purchase credits for that impact to get back into compliance with the NRCS. So, this will hopefully be a really desirable option because they've already invested all that money into putting in drain tile. And, historically, they would have had to rip it up in order to get back into compliance with the NRCS. So this would be an option for them to purchase credits, mitigate for that impact, and then they wouldn't have to, destroy this project that they put a lot of time and money into. And, if you're familiar with regular mitigation and banking in Wisconsin, you're probably wondering about the price. I know that Clean Water Act mitigation is pretty expensive. Some credits sell for upwards of $100,000 here in Wisconsin. And, that can be pretty cost prohibitive for farmers a lot of time if they want to participate. This program, the credits are going to be significantly cheaper than what you'll find in Clean Water Act mitigation. In talking with other states, we're hoping to hit, a range of about $15,000 to $20,000 per credit. We haven't set a firm price yet. It's really going to determine, we still want to value the wetland restoration that takes place, but we don't want the cost of a credit to be, cost prohibitive for farmers to participate in. So, there's still some feeling out of where that sweet spot is going to be. So this is a map of the bank service areas that we have in Wisconsin. A bank service area is just a land area that a wetland impact could be properly mitigated for through the purchase of credits from one of these mitigation banks. As you'll see, they're pretty big. We use the Huck 4 basin boundaries here in Wisconsin as well as the state boundaries. So we have three major bank service areas here in Wisconsin. Those two yellow stars are the two sites that we'll be constructing this fall. So with one site in the Mississippi River Basin and one site in the Lake Michigan Basin, I think we should be able to hit 99% of our initial credit need. You'll notice that we don't have a bank site up in Lake Superior, and currently there's no plans to put a site up there. And that's just due to talking with the NRCS and other groups. There's really not that much ag up there, and we haven't seen a big need for credits up in that Lake Superior Basin, just because there's not that many wetland impacts, with the ag that's up there. But I think, as this program matures, we'll be looking closely at that model. And if we do see, even just a little bit of demand up in that Lake Superior area, I think then, that's a good opportunity to revisit and potentially put a bank site up there. And because they are so large, producers are generally have to purchase credits from the mitigation bank that's in the same service area as them. I know in other programs with some smaller service areas, they allow some jumping with the penalty of credit purchases. But, with the size that we have and the bank sites that we have established, generally that's not going to be allowed in this program. So I want to dig into credit sales a little bit more. It's really important to know that the use of this program is completely optional for producers in Wisconsin. When it's fully functional, it's just going to be one of many options for farmers to stay in compliance with the NRCS. So it's always been, at the forefront of my mind when developing this program that we want to design this in a way that a farmer is going to see the value and want to participate in this program, because if they don't, they're just not going to use it. There's nobody that's going to force them to. Another important thing is that producers need to work with the NRCS early on to determine their credit need. That's not something that the DNR can do for them. That's, solely a conversation between the NRCS and the farmer. And while the DNR is not the one that's officially doing the credit sale, we'll facilitate the sale of credits between the credit holders and the farmers to make sure that process is really seamless. They have the proper documentation in place that they need, and that process is, really quick for them. So here's a look at where we're headed. This summer, we're doing a lot of program marketing and outreach, some project planning for our initial sites that'll be constructed in the fall of 2023. We are going to begin initial mitigation site construction in the fall of 2023. Once that construction is complete, we will get a certain portion of the total credits released to us, and they'll be made available for sale. So we're hoping to have credits available for purchase in the winter of 2023, 2024, right around there. And we get about 20% of those total credits. So, and I'll get into this later, but I'm expecting probably to have anywhere from 5 to 6 credits available in each service area by this winter. In 2024, we're going to continue outreach. I think it's going to be a really critical part of this program. More credits will be made available as we're hitting performance standards. Maintenance and monitoring of our initial sites, of course, is going to begin at that point. We also have the funding to put 2 new sites on the landscape that we're hoping to construct in the fall of 2024. So that'll just provide more credit opportunity for farmers to utilize this program. So what are our expectations for this program? This program's not designed and not equipped to allow farmers to put a bunch of tile through these pristine wetlands and do, major wetland drainages. That's not really the goal of this program, not really the goal of DNR or the NRCS. This program will really be used to mitigate for those small wetland impacts that you'll see less than 5 acres. And to be honest with you, in talking with other states, I think, the average wetland impact that we sell credits for is probably going to be around 0.5 to 1 acres. Those really small situations where maybe a farmer has a low spot that he can't get production out of, he can purchase credits for it, mitigate for it, fill it in, and then, increase that yield of his landscape. I think credit sales likely are going to be low to start. That's been typical in talking with other states and how, these programs function when they first begin. I think outreach is going to be really critical to speeding that up and getting more program buy-in. Word travels slow, and there can sometimes be some distrust between farmers and the regulatory agency. But I think that once people start utilizing the program and word, gets out there that of the benefit that this program can provide for farmers, then, I think that's when credit sales will really start increasing. And of course, it's really important to know that not all wetland impacts are going to be eligible. Like I said, those, if you're draining really pristine wetlands, those probably aren't going to be eligible for mitigation under this program. And then of course, we need to make sure that we're selling credits for wetland impacts that will, have mitigation from the Food Security Act and not require mitigation from those other 28136 or Clean Water Act statutes. So last thing I want to go through with you is the 2 sites that we're planning to implement on the landscape. This first one is located in Dane County. If you're familiar with the area, there's a fleet farm that's just off of the highway in DeForest, and it's a 1/10 of a mile away from there, real close. It's owned by Dane County Land and Water Resources Department, who we've been partnering with to implement this restoration. They've been really great, conservation focused, really excited about the project. This property is actively cropped. It's artificially drained. There's a lot of tile in it. There's a drainage ditch, and it's got an egg lease that's ending in fall of 2023. So timelines line up really nicely to get a restoration on the landscape. It's located in the Upper Yahara River watershed, right next to Cherokee Marsh. So it's going to add to a lot of good restoration that's taken place in the area, and provide good restoration in the area that's pretty heavily cropped and has a lot of agriculture going on. It's about 18 acres in size with 13 acres of historic wetlands on site. If you look at this WA soil profile, that is about the wetland boundary. We might get a little more wetland area when it's all said and done, breaking tile, but that's about what we're expecting the wetlands to be. And then the rest of the area is going to be restored to an upland buffer area. Probably looking for a sedge meadow or wet prairie type of wetland restoration here. So yeah, really good site, really good partners that we're working with, and yeah, really excited about this project. Our second site is located in Milwaukee County in the city of Oak Creek. The Oak Creek actually borders the eastern and southern boundary of the site. Same as the Dane County site. It's actively cropped, artificially drained, and has an egg lease ending. So timelines match up really well. It's owned by Milwaukee County Parks, and they've done a lot of wetland restorations in this area. So that's just going to add to, this patchwork of really good work that they've been doing in the area. This site's a little bigger. It's about 20 acres, and the whole site is hydric soils. So we're hoping to get anywhere from, 18 to 20 credits available from this site once it fully meets all the standards. So that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Because this program is optional and it's so new, we really want to make sure that we're creating this program in a way that's going to be beneficial for farmers, and they're really going to want to use this program. So yeah, if you have any feedback, any thoughts, any questions, I'd be happy to discuss them with you.
All right, yeah, so if anybody has any questions, we have plenty of time, so feel free to unmute yourselves and ask them directly. Otherwise, put them in the chat and I can read them out. I know we had a question in there earlier, but it's disappeared, so you probably answered it someplace else in the presentation. Yeah, so feel free to ask any questions. Oh, we just had one come in. Do you think the recent Supreme Court Sackett ruling regarding what is considered a wetland will impact this program?
So I think it will minimally impact this program. It might actually increase use in this program. So the Supreme Court decision doesn't impact the Food Security Act and how the NRCS functions. So, they're just staying the course, doing what they've always been doing. What it might affect, though, is it's going to increase the amount of non-federal wetland exemptions that come from 28136. So with an increase in those non-federal exemptions, there could be an increase in the types of wetland impacts that will be allowable to be mitigated for under this program. And like I said, that's going to be pretty small impacts to begin with, but yeah, for the most part, that Supreme Court ruling is solely for, those Clean Water Act impacts, which, really those isolated wetlands are what we're looking to mitigate for under this program anyways, which is kind of, outside that ruling.
Okay, if anybody else has any questions, we definitely have time, so feel free to drop them in. Okay, we had another one come up. You mentioned that the two sites would cover 99% of the needs. Does that mean there are only around 40 acres out of compliance across the Mississippi River and Lake Michigan service areas?
I would guess there's probably more. What I mean more by that is, so not every out of compliance acreages one is going to be able to be mitigated for under this program. Like I said, if it's a really rare and high quality wetland, you're going to run into some state protections and you might have to, do other things anyways. So those impacts might not be eligible. The other thing too is, it's really up to the farmer if they want to purchase credits to mitigate for under this program. So, let's say they're out of compliance, the NRCS isn't going to force them or fine them or anything to get back into compliance. They just don't get to participate in any of those federal farm programs. And, that's a pretty big incentive to stay in compliance, but, not all farmers are going to go that route. So, it's kind of this balancing act of you have this impact that is going to be eligible. You have a willing farmer that's going to purchase the credits. So yeah, I think there's certainly more. Not all of them, are going to work for this program. And that's why too, once we have more and more banks established and more credits available, then we'll just, we'll be able to sell them to more farmers and help more people out. And that's also, it's been pretty difficult to determine the demand for credits here in Wisconsin. So that'll be something that'll be interesting to see as we make credits available, how many farmers are actually coming to us that are going to want to purchase credits. And if we see a really big demand, I think that really incentivizes us to put even more sites on the ground because, it's always, if the demand's there, we can always put more sites on the ground, and we just don't want to, get to a point where we're putting generating a bunch of credits that are just never going to get used. So yeah, it's kind of a balancing act, between demand there.
Got it. Thank you. That helped a ton. A follow-up question on that. Is there some sort of map that shows per county how many acres are out of compliance, or by service area how many acres are out of compliance?
There isn't. I'd like a map like that too. Be really interesting to see. The NRCS is pretty tight-lipped with their privacy laws about that. So, we've had offhand numbers of they probably see anywhere in the teens of new out of compliance cases a year. But where those are, not too sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing or hearing any other, oh, let's see, we just had one more come in actually. So is this just going to promote tiling wetlands? Yeah. Yeah, tiling wetlands of, oh, well, just pay my way out of it kind of thing.
I mean, I don't think so, because some of those situations, one, you're going to run up into state requirements if you're doing, big tiling projects. Two, this is something that they could have done anyways, and just, hope that they didn't get caught, or if they wanted to do mitigation on their own, they could do mitigation on their own. So, this will just be another option for them to purchase credits and mitigate for that impact. And I think a lot of times too, particularly in looking with some state cases that we've had, there's situations that a farmer puts in tile and, maybe that's kind of iffy on whether the law applies or not. And, there's nothing that can be pushed in court, so then nothing gets done about it. This could be a way to catch that farmer beforehand. Maybe if he sees that this program is beneficial, he'll just purchase credits on the forefront. And then, we at least get some mitigation for that impact. Whereas if he maybe would have just done it on his own, we'd get nothing from that. And I think a lot of these impacts too, farmers are probably putting a crop in on these wetland areas if they get a dry year like this year. So, the quality of wetlands, while they're still providing some function, they don't have, that good native seed base. So I think, yeah, if we can get those mitigated for with some, really higher quality restoration, I think that can be, an ecological benefit overall.
Okay, well, if any other people have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm just going to remind everybody that I'll be sending that email out soon with the recording and with the evaluation link, so please fill it out. Otherwise, I'm going to stop the recording now, so if anybody has questions that they want to ask after they're done being recorded, you can have that time to do it then.